Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, in the Western world, we have a very serious, economic-centered, black and white approach to living our lives. We live our lives in this very serious way where we focus so much on the economy. We get caught up in doing the same thing day after day, and we obsess over our careers. And when you think about it, this way of life sort of just dries out your soul. It takes a lot of the beauty out of life and just makes you incredibly stressed out. And I consider myself a pretty laid-back, low-stress person, but oftentimes I get consumed by this way of life and just get incredibly stressed out. But one thing that I like to do when I get consumed by this way of life is just to zoom out and think about, at the same time I'm living this stressful way of life, there are people dancing in the street with colorful costumes. There are people practicing these extremely old traditions. And there are people living extremely different ways of life. And when I think about things this way, it calms me down because it makes me realize how many different ways there are to go about living. It makes me realize that this dull, stressful Western way of life isn't the only way to go about living. And if I open up my mind, learn how other people are living, and change my view, I can create a more simple life that has less stress and more enjoyment. And so in this video, I want to challenge you to think differently. I want to deconstruct this serious, stressful Western way of life and show you that this isn't the only way to go about living. But if you live your life intentionally and learn from other people of how they're living, then you can implement things in your life to live a more simple life despite how stressed out the rest of the world is. So let's begin. Step 1. Why the Western way of life is so stressful. In the Western world, we have these values that sort of guide how we live our lives, where we want order, we want structure, we want efficiency, we're rational thinking, we're highly individualistic, we're career-focused, and we like measurable success. And when you really boil down this Western way of life, what we desire the most is certainty. As Westerners, we want order, structure, and efficiency because we like to feel as if we can have complete control over our lives. And because we want so much certainty in life, I think what happens is we end up living these very dull, predictable lives where neighborhoods are very orderly and safe. We choose realistic career paths, and we end up doing the same thing every day. We don't want things to ever be chaotic or uncertain, and so we take ourselves so seriously and live these dull lives because it makes us feel as if we can have complete control over our lives. But I think this obsession with certainty leads us to very stressful lives because we end up getting in a bunch of debt by keeping up with those around us. We lose curiosity and joy because we become so consumed by our careers, and we live these quiet lives of desperation from our repetitive lives. The reason we're so stressed out in the West is because we're obsessed with certainty. We want to have our entire lives planned out, but that is not how life works. Life is full of twists and turns and surprises. But as Westerners, we don't accept that reality of life. We want to feel as if we have control, and when something comes up, we don't know how to handle it, and we end up just getting extremely stressed out. And so the first thing you need to do to break out of this stressful, serious mindset is just to accept the uncertainty of life. So let's talk about that. Step 2, getting out of the Western mindset. As a Westerner, I started to become aware of how much I desire certainty in life when I was living in South America. Because in South America, it doesn't matter how much you plan or how much you prepare, there is always going to be this variable that comes up that interrupts your plans, whether transportation is inefficient, or technology isn't dependable, or there's no order anywhere. And in the beginning, this uncertainty just stressed me out so much because I was trying to control uncontrollable situations. But things really changed a year into my time there because I got out of this Western mindset and accepted the uncertainty of life. A huge reason that we stress out so much is because we think we can have complete control over our lives, and we don't accept that there will be moments in life that are uncertain. And as much as Ali Abdaal says you can block out the next 50 years of your life, things are going to be uncertain. You can't always do that because things are going to come up. I mean, no matter how orderly your neighborhood is, your house could still be struck by lightning. No matter how educated you are, you could still lose your job. No matter how straight the highways are, people will still get in accidents. And so now, let me show you how I have productive tea and crumpets. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I just had to do that joke. If you understood that joke, let me know in the comments, but he is a great guy, a productive guy. But life is full of twists and turns and surprises. And instead of rejecting that reality, as we commonly do in the West, I think it's important to just accept it. Accept that life isn't always predictable. Accept that you don't have as much control as you think you do. And instead of trying to control uncontrollable situations, learn to adjust to the uncertainty of life. Learn how to go with the flow of life. And to me, breaking out of this Western mindset that leads to a life of stress starts with just accepting the reality that there are moments of life that are uncertain and we don't have as much control as we think we do. And when you accept the uncertainty of life, you get rid of a lot of unnecessary stress. So now, to further break out of this mindset that leads to stress, let's talk about broadening your mind. Step 3. Start broadening your mind. As I said in the beginning of this video, whenever I get consumed by stress, I just like to zoom out and think about the diversity of humanity and how we're all living on this single planet, but everyone's doing life a little differently. There isn't just one way to live your life, and in order to understand that, you have to go out and experience it. You have to get out of your comfort zone and try foods of different cultures, witness different traditions from around the world, and learn new languages. As you probably know by now, damas y caballeros, yo soy 100% gringuito, pero yo hablo español chico. And learning another language has opened up so many doors in my life. It's allowed me to develop relationships with people who don't speak my native language. It's allowed me to immerse myself in another culture. And it's allowed me to navigate to over 36 countries around the world. In learning a language takes a lot of time, effort, and patience, and I think the best way to learn a language is in a structured classroom with a real teacher and real students, which brings me to my first ever video sponsor, Lingoda. Lingoda is an online language school that offers live classes 24/7 in German, English, Business English, French, and Spanish. In whatever your language level is, from beginner to advanced, Lingoda has organized curriculums, detailed lesson plans, and so many resources to help you learn the language. And right now, Lingoda has a very cool 2-month-long language learning challenge where you take classes more intensively to see faster progress. And there are 2 challenges. The Sprint Challenge, which consists of 15 classes a month for 2 months, or the Super Sprint, which consists of 30 classes a month for 2 months. And the cool thing about this is if you complete the challenge, they will give you 50% cash back for the sprint and 100% cash back for the super sprint. And to get $25 off, click the link in the description with the discount code Augustine. And no matter how busy your schedule is, they have classes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Simply click the next lesson on your curriculum, find the time that works for you, and click book. And whether you're a beginner or si quieres hablar como yo, como un gringo con experiencia, Lingoda is a great platform to learn a language. So start your language journey today. Click the link in the description, use the discount code Augustine, and thank you, Lingoda, for sponsoring this video. But in order to get out of this serious, stressful Western mindset, you have to go out and broaden your mind and experience how other people live their lives. And when you do that, you understand that you don't have to live this stressful, serious life that we often do, and you can implement things that you learn in your life to live a more simple, less stressful life. So now that we talked about broadening our minds, let's move on and talk about implementing these things in our lives. Step 4, start implementing new things in your life. All right, because I am a YouTube teacher, the next generation of educators, let's review very quickly what we talked about. 1, the Western life is stressful because we're obsessed with certainty. 2, in order to get out of this mindset, you must accept life's uncertainty. And 3, to further get out of this mindset, you need to broaden your mind by doing things out of your comfort zone. When you see how diverse this world is and how many different variations there are to live life, you can start changing the approach to how you live your life. And I'm not talking about just rejecting society, because in many ways we are bound by society's rules and regulations. I mean, I live in a capitalist society and I need to find ways to make money in order to afford the high cost of living here. But what I can do is make small changes to live a less stressful life. For example, I got so used to things never going to plan in Ecuador that I don't stress out if a variable ruins my plans, but I just accept it and adjust to it. I view coffee as a ritual of stopping the day to calm me down, rather than energy for work. And I try to find joy through simple things, rather than being a consumer. Oftentimes we get so consumed in our little bubble of the world that we forget that we don't have to live this stressful norm that society has. But if we choose to live our life with an open mind and question these norms, we can live a more simple life with less stress. It's something that takes time to do, and it's something that you're constantly working on. I mean, I believe that culture is so ingrained in us that when we try to fight our own tendencies, it becomes extremely challenging because we get consumed by our own culture. But if you just decide and you choose to make small changes and try to live a less stressful life, overall, you will have less stress than if you don't try it all. So now I want to finish this video with one final thought. Step 5, live life as an optimistic, critical thinker. What I'm trying to say in this video is that there isn't just one way to live your life. With this Western way of thinking, we often get so caught up in wanting control and certainty that we end up living these dull lives with a high amount of stress. As I said in the beginning of this video, whenever I get consumed by this way of thinking, I always just like to think about all these different variations that people are living life, because at the same time that you're watching this video right now, there is another human being that has never used the internet. There is another group of human beings in some remote jungle living off the land. And there is another human being that has given up all modern conveniences and living a very simple life. And I just think that is so cool. I think it's so cool how there are 8 billion of us on this rock that is floating in space that nobody quite understands. And we're all just doing life a little bit differently. And despite all the bad things going on in the world, I think that we're doing a pretty good job coexisting. And no matter how stressed out I get, when I think this way, I feel okay. It calms me down because it makes me see the beauty of this world, the diversity of the human race, and how many different versions there are to live life. It makes me want to be a lifelong learner, where I'm always thinking critically and analyzing my own ways. And if I discover something about myself that is bringing too much stress in my life, I take the steps to make a change, because I understand that there isn't just one way to live in this world. There's 1,000,001 ways to live in this world. So don't get too caught up in this Western way of thinking, and add some color in your life by learning about how other people live around this world. It might help you live a simple life in our stressed out society, because it's helped me. And with that, muchas gracias. Que tengo un buen día. Video 118. Thank you, Lingoto, for sponsoring this video. Nos vemos, chicos.